Hello, everybody. I just wanted to touch base with you this week and kind of review where we have been so far in the course. So, Unit 1 deals with technical literacy, and the purpose of the unit is to establish a current challenge or issue in the study of science for further review. So, really, this past week, you looked at some different case studies. And the reason why you looked at the case studies, this will give you the basis to look for some sample topics and to possibly identify a topic for your particular final project. And the project overview is that it's going to be a recommendation report. In that, you have to identify both secondary and primary resources and establish your qualifications to address the selected challenge or issue. In this unit, we have 3 graded assignments. The first one is what you did this week, and that was the discussion board for the case studies. You also have the ethical considerations, the handout, and of course, I posted it a little bit late because I didn't copy it from Blackboard. I apologize for that, but you should see that that assignment now and simply post your answers to the assignment. It'll send it to me. It's not posted to the discussion board. The last part will be the planning memo, and the planning memo is really important because it's going to identify the area of research, the scope of your project, and research methods. So in this video lesson particularly, I want to deal with the idea of topic selection. So again, just a review, in Unit 1 so far, we began with some case studies just to get you acclimated to empirical studies, the case studies in the world of science, and some current topics. So the purpose of going into the case studies was really to get you to start thinking about some of the current issues in the world of science. This is not in any way to assume that you don't already know that. I just wanted to make sure you all had access to empirical studies in giving you some more experience in reading scientific documents and things of that nature. You might already have a broad base there, but I wasn't sure, so I wanted to make sure I established that so that we would all be on the same equal footing. The next step in the process is knowing that the big picture is the recommendation report. So from this point on, everything we do from here on will be working towards that final project, which is the recommendation report. So I'll be releasing the entire course, which I'm sure you'll understand and are comfortable with the scope of the recommendation report. But there's a couple things I would like to talk about. And the first thing being the topic selection. We need to look at some that is within the realm of science, right? So knowing that your final product is going to be a recommendation report, we have to also be thinking about scope. I want you to start thinking about something that is local, that you can identify the problem, research the problem, get access to primary research, and therefore be able to make reasonable and feasible recommendations. So again, let's look at this. Identify a problem, should be local, research the problem, get access to primary research, and then make a reasonable and feasible recommendation. So let me give you an example. If I were, as an educator, to do a recommendation report for Delaware Tech, I would say that one of the problems that I would identify is our online student population does not have equal access to registration, financial aid, and advisement in the online format. So I would therefore research what other colleges are doing to address those needs of the online student population, and then make feasible, measurable, obtainable recommendations based on my research to the college to say, hey, this is the way we can solve this problem. So hopefully that has helped in starting you to think about an issue or problem you can research and propose a solution for. If you want to stay with the topic from your case study, you are more than welcome to do so, but we just need to make sure we are addressing that scope, that realistic target audience. So for instance, some of you worked on the genetic testing case study. You could then research what Delaware's position is on genetic testing and what specific doctor's offices offer this sort of service. And then what are the follow-up services related to that? Do they provide counseling? Do they provide educational resources for people? And then you can make a recommendation or make recommendations for Delaware to continue to do that or increase that offering. Or do this in such a way that is much better serving that population of people who are interested. So that's just an example. Another thing that the group seemed to be interested in was the water waste. So you could look at the county in which you live. What is the county doing about water waste? Do we have runoffs? We have retention ponds and all of the newer developments. What's the purpose of those? Is the purpose of those to address the runoff, this water waste? What is it that we're doing? Are we reliant on larger cities like Philadelphia? So if that is of interest to you, then by all means use that as your topic. But now we are at a point where we need to process that down to scope so that when we do the recommendation report and work through all the recommendations associated with the recommendation report, we can then hit the target that is reasonable and make recommendations that can in fact be implemented. So I want you to think about this as real as it can be. So with that then, I hope I've clarified topic selection. The planning memo is huge. Don't underestimate the planning memo. I want you to know that any work that you do here on this assignment will benefit you later. So I think you will find that some of the writing that you will do with the planning memo will help you later in the development of your abstract. It will help you to develop some of your recommendations. It will help you to solidify certain portions of the final project. So if you feel like you're doing a whole lot of work on this, don't worry, you'll benefit later from doing that. It won't be a waste of your time, I promise. So you can see that these prompts are fairly specific. They are trying to get you to really think ahead. So what is the topic? What is the thing that really bothers me as someone who's entering the world of science? So I intend to be a nurse, and in the field that I intend to enter, there are certain things going on. Nurses have so much responsibility but a lack of resources. So research that. See what other people are saying. Is that in fact a real problem in the world of nursing? I want you to make this as real to you as possible, and then know what you're talking about and to be able to identify the problem. What are the terms that are associated with that sort of problem? Whom does this problem impact? Who is living with this problem every day? Who is being affected by this problem on a daily basis? So really think these things through and respond to these as honestly as you can. All of these are audience-related questions. So then we get into the research component. You're going to do 2 levels of research. You're going to do a secondary research, which is what you are most used to, right? So you're going to find out, and you're going out and finding reputable sources using all of your information literacy skills that you have, making sure that your content is accurate and current. Unit 2 is a literature review. So that is the bulk of that secondary research. But you're also going to be required to do primary research, so you will have to go to the source. So again, if I were using my example topic of addressing the needs of online students in college, I would go to a college that is doing a really good job in addressing this student population and their needs. And I'd sit down with them and I would have prepared some questions, and I would ask them my questions such as, well, how did you come up with your program? Are your students responding to it positively? What have you learned as a result of introducing those practices? So if you think about going right to the source, and if you had access to that source, what would you ask them? So for primary research, you can either do an interview or you can create a survey. Whichever is best going to serve your needs. We'll determine that together. But at this point in the planning stage, you want to be thinking about that. So when you write this portion on the primary research, it is okay if you end up doing one and not the other, but at least you have thought about what will best serve your needs. Qualifications. This is pretty straightforward. So why is this a good topic for you? And this might be the response. Because I intend to enter this field. Or if you are looking at wastewater issues, your answer might be because you are a citizen of this city or town, and I want to know what is happening, and if and how this is impacting me and my family. If I'm a taxpayer, I want to know if people are addressing this sort of thing. So back to my example. My qualifications are that as an instructor at a community college, am involved with online learning, and it was the focus of my dissertation, actually. We as a college, as you all are experiencing, are increasing our online presence for students. But we are not following through on those resources. So therefore, it is time for us to think about that. So those would be my qualifications that I bring to this recommendation report. I really hope that this will have answered some of your questions. I completely understand if there is a little bit of anxiety in terms of what is coming and perhaps some feelings of frustration about topic selection, but also understand what is due soon is simply your thought process at this point about what topic would I like to look at. And I want you to see if your classmates are thinking about similar topics. If you find that you can collaborate on some of this work, I would absolutely support that. And if not, that's okay too, because at the end, if all of our topics are slightly different, and we all work independently on this, when we present our findings, our recommendations, we will all know exactly where this started. So we will all have had access to the thought process of the topic selection. So I hope this gives you the bigger picture. I'm going to respond to the general questions on the discussion board posts for anybody that posts there. One of the other things I recommend is to see if there is a common time that we can do a Skype meeting or a Zoom or Google Hangout or any sort of discussion that is synchronous, that we can hear each other's questions and hear each other's responses. That might be really helpful. I would suggest 2 times in order to accommodate everyone's schedules, and I don't mind being flexible with that. I just would like to touch base to find out how you're doing with this assignment and the course in general. So I'll post a few more things in the announcements, and if you have any general questions, post those as well. So really think about what it is that you can research. What is a problem in the area that you're going to go into? How can you solve that problem? And your report will then be making the recommendations. But again, you want to make sure that everything is obtainable and it's measurable and it's practical. So give some thought. You can use the case studies this week to, build some ideas, or if you have ideas of your own, you're going to write the topics, you're going to post them on the discussion board, and then I want you to read each other's topics and respond to them, and I will respond as well. But if we can get this portion done and get the planning memo done, that will pretty much conclude Unit 1.